Are we going? Thank you. All right, good afternoon, everybody. This is the Mansfield Downtown Partnership Board meeting on April, please tell me it's the 8th, 2024.
The 4th.
The 4th.
The 4th. All right, I've been dealing with all kinds of things over the next week, and I just can't keep track. All right, is there anybody from the public who wishes to address the board? Mr. Bacon, are you here as a member of the board or a member of the public?
As a board emeritus, but I guess
Okay,
AKA member of public as well.
all right. Well, I just want to know whether you appeared on this part of the agenda or somewhere else. So I'm welcome.
Thank
Let's see, I have two screens showing, so I have Emily and Ryan as well. All right. First item on our agenda is approval of the minutes of March 5th. Is there a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Mr. Coleman moves, Mr. Farina seconds. Do I have to do the Mr. stuff on this meeting, or are we all first name?
I'm okay with first names.
All right, we'll go with first names. I have to untrain myself in order to do this. Okay, so any comments or corrections to the minutes of March 5th? Seeing none, all those in favor of the minutes, please raise your hand or indicate in some way. All right, thank you. Minutes are adopted unanimously. Well, we get to the very last Cynthia Van Zelm Executive Director report. I'm sorry to be serving as the chair of the board in this situation for lots of reasons. Cynthia's been with us for 22 years, and her contributions to the partnership are absolutely unmatched. We would not be, and the downtown would not be where we are today if it were not for the work that she has done over the years. So Cynthia, why don't you give us your report, and then I have some comments that I want to make.
Okay, thank you, Tony. I want to say some comments later too, but I do want to recognize Steve, and you know, he was at my first board meeting, and so to have him here at my last board meeting, I didn't know he was going to be on, and thank you, Steve. I really appreciate it. So we have a couple of applications for the UConn student rep, and they are due tomorrow. So the governance committee will be reviewing them at its meeting on the 22nd. So hopefully we'll get a few more, but definitely have some good applications. On the 22nd, I'll be giving an update, annual update on the partnership, and then Steve and Kristen DeLay, in their capacity as chair and vice chair of the Economic Development Commission, will also give an update to the town council. So I just wanted people to know that. This weekend, Saturday, I'll be staffing our table at UConn Bound Days. So this is a great opportunity for us to get the word out on the downtown partnership. And then Rachel and Rosemary, which is nice to see them doing it together on the 13th. They'll be at the Student Union doing the second day of the spring UConn Bound Days, which used to be called UConn Open House, just to clarify that. We are looking for some volunteers for Summer Stroll, which is coming up on May 30th. And if it makes sense, Tony, I can pass that around by email. If people can
Yes.
sign up, we're looking for 5 people for either an hour and a half or 2-hour shifts. And I think, it's a pretty low key event, but I think a fun event. And I think people enjoyed it last year who volunteered. I think that's all I have for now.
Okay, well, I'm not really sure where this fits in the agenda, but we have to do something really special to celebrate Cynthia and to acknowledge her departure. And I would like to ask the executive committee to put together some kind of an event to include past active members of the board and its committees, some of its past chairs for sure. I think that Cynthia is not leaving the area, so we ought to be able to drag her back here for one last party. And I think it really ought to be a celebration of everything that she has achieved over the past 22 years.
Is this gonna be a surprise party or have we?
Yeah, total
Okay.
surprise. There's no way to do it by surprise because I think it's going to require some work on the part of a number of us. But I'm not going to ask Cynthia to put together the list or the addresses either, although we'll need some help there. Anybody want to comment on that or add anything to it? Steve?
As Cynthia mentioned, I was on the board back in 2002 when she attended her first meeting. And I thought it only appropriate that I attend her last meeting as well. It's been quite a run. We're really going to miss her. But we wish her the best in her new position. And we know she'll do as well there as she has for us. So we should try to put together a really nice send-off for her. So thank you, Cynthia.
Thanks so much, Steve.
Any other comments on the subject?
Well, I haven't worked with Cynthia as long as many people have, only going on 3.5 years, but consummate professional. I don't know if I've ever worked with somebody that was quite so, conscientious and just well-intended in everything that they do professionally. And I know there's always more work to be done, and obviously the work's gonna have to continue in Cynthia's absence. But 22 years, remarkable job you've done. You really built something, and the town will always owe you a debt of gratitude, and we'll try to carry the mantle forward.
Okay, start thinking about your speeches for the big event. Frank, did you have your hand up?
I was just gonna say I wish everybody knew what the place looked like in 2002 as compared to where we are now.
Yeah.
And, because you really have to see that comparison to really appreciate fully what's been accomplished here. And Cynthia, you've done so much to keep the train running, right? And give us the right tracks to roll on. And sometimes we get lost in that. And I'm delighted, Tony, that you've recommended that we get together in a special celebratory way to recognize the person too, because there's people behind the getting out all the minutes and doing the events and pulling everything together. It's really important to also recognize that as individuals, people make significant contributions, and I look forward to celebrating Cynthia.
Excuse me. Okay, well, start writing your speeches. I don't know when this will be, but we'll have the executive committee work on it. Next thing on the agenda is from the strategic plan promotion in public spaces. Do we have a report on that?
Do you want me to go ahead and do it, Karen, Emily? Since Sean couldn't be here, I can. Okay.
Yeah.
So the tables and chairs and umbrellas are on site. And thanks to the great Public Works crew, they will be put out sometime next week after Monday. Just in time for the 65-degree weather I think we're supposed to get next week, so that'll be great. So I think it will be such a nice improvement. So thanks again to the working group and Sean's leadership on putting that together. And Steve was involved too. So the wayfinding signage program, we have our consultant team, so I'm kind of putting on my economic development hat too. From Forge, and then our designer from Merge are coming out all day on Tuesday to start staking out where the signs are gonna go. They're all in shop drawings right now, so just to remind everybody, this is the first phase. So this is the park signs and the downtown store signs. The future phases are vehicular, landmark signs for the different town buildings, and then the village signs. So making good progress on that. Hopefully by the end of the summer, that signage will be up, and I think it'll be a great contribution as part of our whole branding and wayfinding process. We also talked a little bit, Emily's suggestion about bringing Waldron Studio in for some music during the lunch hour, and I think Emily was going to reach out to that team. They've been very interested in the downtown and in the potential cultural district, so that was an idea to continue to enhance the square. You got some information from Kathleen on the Unlocking Connecticut piece that she worked on in terms of an itinerary. So downtown stores will be featured in their April newsletter, so you can check that out. We're really focusing on outdoor recreation and dining over the next several months. Another piece that Kathleen and Margaret Chady, who works for Ryan, who's the town's communications specialist, is our a summer fun and dining guide that we did last year that will again feature Mansfield on the cover and then the feature story. And that should come out Memorial Day weekend. And I think those were some of the things that we discussed, unless the working group has any other things that I missed.
Has anybody commented that they've seen our materials and are coming because of them?
That's such a hard thing to track, but that's a good question, Tony.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I know that that's part of kind of our benchmarking, but it is hard to track. It's easier to track, when we get likes and things like that on Facebook, or we get people looking at things on our website, we can track that a little bit easier.
And you've seen positive responses?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I thought the Unlocking Connecticut folks did a great job. It was very comprehensive and they've got a great following, and Kathleen did mention some numbers, and I apologize, I don't have those with me. But she's done a great job with putting some of these together, working with Margaret.
Brian, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I just had a question about the wayfinding signage. That's 3 phases, if I caught you correctly?
Yes,
And
well, 4 phases.
4 phases. How many phases have we funded yet up to now?
So you funded the first phase, which there actually were 5 phases, but we combined the downtown stores and the park signage in the
Okay,
first phase, and that's been funded by the council, and then the rest of the phases are in the capital budget. Is it still a 5-year budget, Ryan? Is that how it works? I'm sorry, capital.
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
Okay, next is property owner and business owner engagement.
Sure. We met this week, discussed another, the last for town collaborative meeting we had was the one on AI, which was held up at the Innovation Partnership Building. We discussed holding another forum on AI sometime in the fall. We also discussed our fall social and tentative dates for that. We are working on face-to-face meetings with business owners and getting those kind of feature stories written. We're making some progress on both of those. And then Kathleen came up with a great idea, something we haven't done much of yet, and that's using influencers on social media to help promote the downtown. Two in particular that she highlighted at our meeting. One was Unlocking Connecticut, and this duo of influencers came out and hit a bunch of different businesses and spots in our town to highlight them in their social media posts. And then there was another guy on, I think it was TikTok or Instagram, who came and reviewed Square Peg Pizza and featured that in his following. So that's not something we've really done a whole lot of, like trying to reach out to influencers and trying to get them to come and highlight our areas, but it might be something we should start looking into. So that's the quick 60-second version.
Jimmy Official, that's the,
Yeah, Jimmy Official. Thank you.
who is that?
He's a social media influencer on Instagram.
Okay,
So he has a following of people that watch all of his videos. It's pretty sizable. It was a lot, like in the tens of thousands or 100,000. It was a lot of people who watch all the content he puts out. And he came and reviewed, of all things, wood-fired bagels, which is one of the offerings at Square Peg Pizzeria now. So kind of a neat way to get in front of a new demographic of people who haven't maybe been exposed to the stores downtown.
that this is the discussion that really makes me feel my age. How about a sustainable funding piece?
So that group hasn't met, but we're still working on reaching out to specific businesses in the downtown in terms of new or increased contribution to the partnership as part of our operating budget. So I have I had a meeting this past week and I have a meeting tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. Celebrate Mansfield?
Yeah, so we had a meeting on March 12th, where, we're starting to get underway thinking about what activities we want people to offer. And we're trying to focus on coming up with fun activities, but then trying to get businesses to take them on as part of their booth rather than, our committee or the Mansfield Partnership staff having to kind of handle those. We also are kind of discussing a few different site plans to kind of improve it from last year. And so those are kind of being reviewed and tweaked a little bit. We're also really trying to make a big push towards sponsorships. So right now, before our next meeting, the committee is kind of reviewing the sponsorship list to see who we will approach and then also try to think of new sponsorship possibilities. So because, I think we are hoping to get a few more members on the committee, but with the loss of Magdalena, if anyone on the committee can help or have ideas for sponsorship possibilities or activities, please reach out to me because we appreciate the extra help right now. But yeah, we'll have a meeting in 2 weeks.
Do either of the two chambers of commerce sponsor either the Wyndham one or the Northeast Chamber?
I don't think so, right, Cynthia?
No,
That
no,
doesn't-
they haven't, or Tolland or Wyndham, no. I don't know if, I mean, it's worth an ask. I don't know, they're usually looking for money, so so I don't know if they would, but it's worth an ask.
The Northeast one is being pretty aggressive in expanding, so they might be more interested. If they participate in the festival, they might get more members. Who knows?
That's a good idea. Great.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is the right place to ask the question, but one of the questions I had is about the Maple Festival that was held in February or March. That was sponsored by the Wyndham Chamber. And it had, one of the things I read is that it had 20 food trucks. And did anybody get any response from the restaurants as to whether they liked or disliked the presence of competitors across the street?
The only thing that I heard directly was just some concerns about parking in one of the plazas and just you know, kind of overtaking that lot. That's the only thing that I heard.
Okay.
The only thing I heard was the feedback that Cynthia just offered that she heard, so I did not hear anything.
Because it seems to me that we've talked about this as bringing in business, but of course, if they're providing competing food, and most of our businesses are food related, I wondered how that is going over with our people who we have in the downtown. All right, executive committee?
Tony,
I
looked
saw
like
that Steve
Steve
in
had
it,
his
yeah.
hand up.
Yeah, so I was just gonna mention, Tony, Tops 44 had a truck there, so they were sort of a local name that
Okay.
participated. So maybe it'd be something for other local businesses that also have that ability to participate. I think it would definitely, having attended, I didn't notice a lot of people going across just because there were so many offerings at the festival. So I could see how it maybe didn't help the restaurants across the way. But it was a great event and it seemed like there were a lot of people there. So
And I participated in it for a side business, and we went over to Dog Lane because it was so freezing. So in fact I don't know, it was a terrible weekend to have an outdoor festival, and I feel like it took me forever to warm back up. So I don't know if maybe some people actually walked over there just to get inside. So, you know, I don't think there were actually 20 food trucks if I was judging. I think that might have been an over exaggeration, but
Although you have to think of it in terms of if it brought people to the area, then they're more likely to return. So it's not necessarily just a direct, did they go to the businesses? And if it was their first time, maybe they'll come back again.
All right, executive committee. Who's here from the executive committee besides me?
Me and Ryan, but we have,
Well, I'm not a
Right,
member of the
Matt, and
executive
we-
committee. I just play one on TV or whatever.
yeah, and we don't have a meeting scheduled quite
Yeah.
yet.
I mean, I can share, having had conversations with Kyle once we learned that Cynthia was going to be leaving, just based on the conversations I had with Kyle. I know, you know, he's keen on getting the executive committee together to start talking about next steps in the transition. So we're going to be looking to do that.
Okay, finance and growth, I had to sort of back away from because of this course I've been teaching. And Mario, thank you very much for taking over in my spot. Do you want to make the finance committee report? Can you do it safely? Are you driving?
I am driving. Don't know if you could hear me, and I'm not sure whether or not my cell is. I'm hitting a dead spot.
We're hearing you just fine. We were hearing you just fine.
I can't hear you. Let's see. I'm sorry if you can hear me. I'm unfortunately having problems hearing you. I apologize.
Do you want me to do it, Mario and Tony? Is it easier?
Yes, I
Okay.
don't want Mario to have an accident while he's trying to deal with this and with the bad reception. We can hear you now. Can you hear us?
Doesn't look like he can.
No. All right, Cynthia, why don't you make the report?
Sure. So the main item, well, two main items. One was to review some insurance options for reserving the square. And so that was something that the committee had talked about back in November. And so Maria Capriola, the Director of Shared Services at the town, had found out that there were some options through the town's insurer, Kerma, to use that insurance for potentially different events that others would bring onto the square. And so there's a couple of different options. There's also an option to go to, we're gonna have a surprise guest coming on, to go on to our with Wilcox and Reynolds and get insurance for the day. So an example of that would be the flea market did that when they were doing their event on the square a couple weeks ago, and they are also doing it on Friday, tomorrow. The other piece is that there's a motion that I put in the packet was to increase the application fee from $10 to $50. And that was something that the committee talked about in November and then talked about again at the last meeting. And I think Steve had asked me to kind of determine how much time the event coordinator spent on, processing the applications. And I figure just kind of the whole thing and helping out is about 2 hours, and that came out to about $50. So
Kara?
I had a question about that because I recently went and was looking at that application, and most people, like the way it's worded very much as an initial inquiry. An initial inquiry, generally speaking, people aren't going to give you money. So I was a little surprised that you would go up to 50 when we're trying to encourage people to use the space, and now you've just put in actually a bigger deterrent to using the space, which is actually $50 just to even ask a question as to whether the space is available. So in theory, what typically would happen is people tend to reach out first, find out if the space is available, and then if the answer is yes, they go the step of filling out an application. So yeah, I was a little concerned that going to $50 for an application, again, when the verbiage is such that you're just inquiring. So now you're making someone pay to inquire?
Well-
Cynthia, how would you answer that?
yeah, I mean, I can answer that, and then other committee members that were involved in the discussion as well. So I definitely hear what you're saying, Kara. I think the idea was to try to monetize the staff time that it takes to process the applications. So that was the thinking. And also to show more of a commitment to trying to go forward with this. And sort of the additional fees potentially could be if they needed Public Works to close the road, that type of thing, so that Public Works is compensated.
But that again, so again, making a distinction between an initial inquiry and then the actual application. So if you want to go forward with monetizing, actually moving forward with time, but you have to change the language and how it's written so that someone can at least ask if it's available without having to expend any money.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that the ask they'd have to expend money, but I think going through the process and filling out forms and things like that, that was the thinking. But, that's why
Maybe
it's here for discussion, so, yeah.
Maybe you need to take a good look at the wording, maybe to say, for example, an initial inquiry is encouraged, but a full application will require a $50 fee.
I mean, I can say from what I remember the discussion, I think the intent was always to focus on the $50 for the application, and as Cynthia said, to try to monetize that appropriately, not to create a barrier out of the gate that was even before the application. So I guess I'd have to look back at the verbiage of the process. That was a wrinkle, if that's the way it's worded, that I guess I was not aware of.
Brian?
Yeah, I agree with Kara on that. Now, the process too cumbersome for people? I mean, can I go online and find a calendar and see what events are happening live right now if I want to apply for a spot there?
Yeah, so the form is on our website and it's fairly easy. I'm pretty sure, yeah, it's a fillable form. And I'll just read the language real quick that Kara is referring to. So it's on the request. And it does say a $10 application fee payable to the Mansfield Downtown Partnership is required to request to hold an event on Betsy Patterson Square. And then it goes on to say if the event will entail the use of police, public works, etc., there may be additional fees required. And then it talks about a planning meeting to assess whether additional fees would apply. All fees would be paid in full prior to the event.
Well,
Okay,
maybe it makes some sense to do what Kara suggests and have a phone inquiry for free. And then if you decide to really go for it, you have to pay the fee.
how many applications do we take in a year?
Probably 5 to 10. This is an area where we really wanted to increase.
That's a minimal
it's
amount
just
of
where-
money. I don't think really you should be charging anything for the application nor the use of the square, and go along with Kara's idea that you're trying to encourage people. I believe most of the events there the people aren't making any money, correct?
Certainly they made money on the flea market, but you're right, most of them, people are not making money.
If they're not making money, there should be a charge. That's just my opinion. I mean, what you're getting for money in the end is negligible. You know, talk about $100 in application fees. Was gonna go up to 50 now? $500? I think we ought to make it as easy as possible to use the square. That's just my opinion.
I just, again, I mean, because my office, that's what we do is book space. The initial inquiry is generally a very generic one. And people don't want to fill out a form if there's not even a chance that the space is available. So most people will call or email first and then get a general sense. And then we have a form ourselves we have them fill out the form. And then nothing is confirmed. So you're always tentative until there's some sort of other transaction. And again, like most of these groups, I mean, if we want more student groups, they're not gonna get a $50. I know that's a separate conversation because we allow free groups, but yeah, I think that is a bit of a deterrent.
Is the board ready to vote on this, or would it be better to refer it back to the finance committee for reconsideration? Voting members, give me some kind of a clue or make a motion somewhere. There hasn't been a motion, although there is a request from the finance committee.
Can you hear me, Tony?
Yes.
Oh, I probably now having Kara mention that, I think it would be wise that we relook at that and have more of a in-depth conversation and take into consideration, to point, Brian's thought of give free if they're not, making money off of it, and discuss it, I think, a little more. So
I agree with that.
Okay, so it sounds like we are referring this back to committee
I
for
agree.
further discussion.
Can I just add, like, I don't know if it would be possible to think of the fee depending on kind of what type of group it is. I do understand that $50 would be a deterrent to student groups, but I do feel that there should be some type of fee to use the downtown. I think, as Cynthia says, to kind of secure the commitment. I agree with Kara, and we've gone through this process at the Ballard Institute to use the downtown. We've never had to pay a fee. Like, they've never said, you talk to us about using the space, you have to pay $10. Like, Cynthia and the team have always been great, where we will ask about dates, then we fill out the form, and then we eventually pay the fee to use it. But I do think it kind of gets people to commit to the space. And I do think that no matter what, even if it is a free event, Cynthia's team is having to put time into the space. We do free puppet shows, yet they are there making sure that we have access to the electrical equipment, or coming by to drop off the key to make sure we can get access to it. And that is their time. And so I do think the space is being used. There is wear and tear to the equipment. And they are having to kind of assist with the planning. So I guess, to be a little bit of a devil's advocate, I do think that some type of fee is good, even if it is a $10 fee for student groups, a $50 fee for, outside groups that are making money or something like that.
Well,
There is.
and let
there's
me
this
clarify,
old-
I'm not
Wait a minute,
suggesting.
Wait a minute, Kara. There is this old arrangement that something like 25% of the time is allocated to UConn for its performances without a fee.
It's not a percentage, but I'm not advocating for no fee for using the space. I'm advocating for a nominal fee for an application.
Yeah, and I would agree. I think clarifying that language, because the arrangement that we've had to do where we haven't paid to like ask for dates or to inquire, like, we've never had to pay for that. And I think that would be that would be a lot. I think it makes sense that, we've always had to pay once we've confirmed the dates and filled out our application.
Not to muddy the waters further, but I mean, if you're looking for a monetary payment for commitment of the space, make sure they actually show up and commit themselves to use the space. You could also use a deposit, which would be non-refundable if you decided not to use the space. Just throwing that out there as well.
All right, there are lots of ideas for the Finance Committee to reconsider. So we'll look forward to a report from them, maybe at our next board meeting. Governance.
The governance committee met on March 25th as a virtual meeting. We had John Zaccaro as a guest. Delighted that Steve is on this call too, because and just to remind people that we have some emeritus members of our board that serve on these committees, and it's great to have Steve and Diana lend their perspective in this meeting, because the main work that we did on this meeting was reviewing the bylaws, and there's some accumulated proposed changes. I'll run through them quickly here. One item was quorum. We discussed whether, currently the quorum for our annual meeting stands at 25. We had a good discussion about that. It seems we ultimately ended that we're going to stick with that 25 number, but that we will recommend adding the ability to vote by proxy in future partnership meetings. The other item was discussed was ex officio roles. So we had for the first time, we had a member who was, well, actually, it's kind of interesting. We have a couple of emeritus presidents here on the call, Mr. Lodwick and Mr. Bacon, which were elected positions. With Kyle, this last time is the first time an appointed position. Kyle was appointed by the university, took on the president's role. And it was interesting to see how the dynamic of the ex officio position related to the president's role. So there was some good input on how to define those roles, and the committee reviewed it. Ultimately, we felt that it was not something that we would add to the bylaws, but that we should put it as part of our orientation package and describing sort of the roles and responsibilities of the different directors, so we would handle it outside of the bylaws. Another item that we covered was the age. Directors need to be at least 18 years of age. We talked about that, and it was helpful to have some perspective on the student component of that, because we're not looking just to college age student. We could reach into the E.O. Smith or population high school stage. So we said our recommendation is that all directors, with the exception of the student representatives, be at least 18 years of age. Another item that Mr. Zaccaro identified for us was an inconsistency in the process of removing directors between the bylaws, the partnerships certificate of incorporation, and state statutes. And we had some discussion about that. It did not seem in our review that there needed to be a change to the bylaws, but that it should be something that we would look into the certificate of incorporation. So we will be reviewing that at our April 22nd governance meeting. Sean, as treasurer, had made a recommendation that we look to have the treasurer serve as a member of the Finance and Growth Committee. And we agreed by consensus that should be an addition. And then finally, the notice. So there was a proposal to shorten the notification period for changes to scheduled meetings from 14 days to 7 days, and the notification period for the annual meeting from 45 days to 30 days to allow for greater staff flexibility in putting those meetings and notices together. And since we're doing a lot of this electronically, the notifications are instantaneous. So with the committee accepted those recommendations. The other items that we covered in our meeting was the student representative application. Cynthia mentioned this in her report.
Frank, I want to stop you for a second.
Sure.
Are you going to be proposing specific revisions to the board for its recommendation to the annual meeting?
That's the next process, right? So these would then go to these are approved by at the annual meeting by the full membership.
So, but will we have we need to have the recommended changes in writing in time to approve them and send them out to the full membership?
I think I got that. Cynthia, with the next steps on the.
Yeah, so the governance committee will make a recommendation, as Frank said, on the 22nd, on April 22nd, and then the board will need to approve the bylaws changes at its May 2nd meeting, and then at that point, that triggers the information to go out to the membership, and the membership has to ratify the changes to the bylaws at the annual meeting, which is June 27th.
Okay, I'm sorry I interrupted you, Frank, but I didn't want
Thanks for that.
to move on without.
Tony. Yeah, no, I'm sorry, I'm trying to move pretty quickly here. So Cynthia, we got the deadline for student applications is tomorrow. Looks like we have a couple to review, and so the governance committee will be doing those interviews at the next meeting. And then you just mentioned the annual meeting, so everybody should have it on their calendar, the June 27th at Huskies now, in that space. Any other things to report related to the annual meeting at this point, Cynthia, logistics wise?
No, I spoke to the owners, Dan and Will, and they very graciously will be providing this for free for us, which is great. And we'll be kind of in I don't know if folks have been in there since they opened, but there's a little bit of a side area where we can hold the meeting. Or you can hold the meeting, I should say.
And I was just pinch hitting here for Kyle, who's the chair of the governance, but have formally served as chair of governance committee, and just want to say thank you, Cynthia, for all that you've done to prepare to make these committee meetings run so well, and prep us, debrief with us. A lot goes into this, and when you're in a volunteer role, to have that kind of staff support is just invaluable. And it really made the experience for me much more worthwhile. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. We have a guest who has joined this meeting. Welcome, Philip. It's very good to see you and glad to have you here. And I assume you joined us because you wanted to make a comment or two. You're still muted, so you can't make a comment until you get unmuted.
No, I didn't come to make any particular comments. I happened to see that Cynthia's last board meeting was going to be today. And I had a little chat with her earlier in the week. And I said, you know, I may want to join you. I've got some other things that I've got to attend to, but I said, I may want to join you just to thank Cynthia for all of the work she's done, for all of the years she's done it. She's made extraordinary commitments, and the town of Mansfield should certainly be pleased with what's happened and thankful to Cynthia for all the stuff that she's done for everybody.
You joined us a little late, but I've asked the executive committee to plan a celebration for her to include people who have served with her in the past, and certainly you are on that list. So don't be surprised if you get a notification that there's a party.
Well, I'd be happy to join it. I'm not sure when it's going to be, but I'll make sure I can. I'll try to make my calendar clear.
Okay, we don't know yet either, so this is all new to us. So thank you for joining us.
I'm happy, by the way, not to have to be involved in conversations about application fees.
Oh yeah, really? You've been through that before, huh?
Yeah, we've been there and done that.
Yes.
I have opinions on it, but I shouldn't voice them.
That's a very tantalizing comment. Now you have to say something.
Well, I listened to the dialogue, and I kind of agree that, you know, if you're trying to encourage people to use the square, make it as easy as possible for them to apply to do it, and you know, don't you know, to charge them a fee of $50, you know, for the amount of applications you get seems to be almost counterproductive. But again, I'm not sure the politics in Mansfield anymore.
But I'm not sure it's a Mansfield political issue. I think it's a board issue.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. I'm not
Yeah.
sure. You know, I've not been involved in any of the dialogue surrounding it, so it's unfair to me to make a comment. I just, you know, you're trying to maintain a vibrant downtown, and to the extent that you can make it easier for people to be engaged, I think it makes sense to me to how do we make it as easy as possible for people to use space that we'd like them to use.
Thank you. That brings us to the end of our work agenda. There's correspondence and communications attached. Does anybody have any comment on those? Seeing nothing. Any further comments? Cynthia.
I know I'll have an opportunity now at a different time, but I did just want to thank everybody, thank the board for all your support, all your kind comments. And it's been, you know, the highlight of my career to be the director of the Downtown Partnership. And it's just been such a group effort between the board, the town of Mansfield, UConn, and I'm very grateful for what everybody's done. So thank you.
Mario?
I was clapping as I was at a stop sign.
Okay. I think Kara is also clapping. Well, we'll have plenty of opportunity to do that at another time, but we're really going to miss you. I know that Kathleen's going to step into your shoes temporarily, at least. And I know she'll do a really good job, but she's not Cynthia. So we wish you the very best. And then what's to come? Do you get a break between jobs?
I don't get a break, but I have a previously scheduled vacation to Texas the week of April 15th. So I have my break in between there.
Okay, well, we all wish you the very, very best. And
Thank
the
you so
next
much.
thing on our agenda is a motion to adjourn. Does somebody wish to move to adjourn?
Sure, I move to adjourn.
Well, Emily had her hand up first. Emily moves, Brian seconds.
Sounds good to
All
me.
those- Pardon?
That sounds good to me.
All those in favor of adjourning, please raise your hand. Thank you, and we'll see you at the next board meeting, except for Cynthia, who we won't see. So, good night, everybody.